In a world where appearances mean everything, Alara Carter finds herself pulled into a life of luxury, expectations, and secrets she never asked for. But behind every perfect smile and polished photo lies a choice and a cost. 1 year, one arrangement, one chance to rewrite everything she thought she knew about family, power, and love. Hello family, welcome to Storytime with Imzi. Please subscribe and like, it means the world to us. Also share this video to your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The marble floors of the Carter estate had lost their shine. Not from neglect. They still had the cleaning lady come twice a week, but from desperation. There was a weight in the air, heavy and bitter like scorched coffee. Monica Carter stood at the kitchen island in her silk robe, manicured fingers tapping a rhythm against her empty wine glass. Across from her, her husband, David Carter, scrolled furiously through his tablet, a tight crease pinched between his brows. $7.1 million, he muttered. Monica sighed, dramatic and sharp. It was 6.9 last week. Interest. They didn't look at each other. Instead, they stared into the abyss of poor investments, unpaid taxes, and lawsuits piling like roaches behind the fine print of paperwork. Their once thriving luxury event business had collapsed 2 years ago after a scandal involving misused funds and a missed deadline with a high-profile client. It never recovered, and neither did their finances. But they had refused to downsize. The parties continued. The Range Rover stayed. Monica still got her nails done at the Buckhead Salon. On credit, of course. "Can't we just take out a second loan on the house?" she asked, knowing full well they already had. David set the tablet down slowly. "The bank won't touch us anymore. They're circling. Waiting. For what? To seize everything." A thick silence followed. Then Monica straightened, as if a switch had been flipped. Her eyes narrowed. "What about him?" "Lucien Hale." David blinked. "What about him?" She stepped closer. "He's looking for a wife for his son, isn't he?" David frowned, hesitant. "That's not a conversation people like us start. That's something they offer. We don't pitch our daughter like a reality show contestant." "I'm not saying we auction her off," she said, although the glint in her eyes betrayed her. "I'm saying it's an arrangement. We give them exactly what they need. A poised, educated, elegant woman from a respectable family. And in return, the debt goes away. It's a solution." David paused, rubbing his jaw. He didn't like it. But he also didn't like the idea of federal agents knocking at their door, seizing cars, freezing accounts, and plastering their name all over the news. "She'd never agree," he said quietly. Monica smiled coldly. "Then we'll make her." Alara Carter sat upstairs at her writing desk, fingers poised over the keyboard of her aging laptop. She was editing a chapter from her novel in progress, unaware of the conversation below. The sun filtered in through her window, casting light across framed degrees, childhood trophies, and a stack of unpaid student loan notices hidden in a drawer she rarely opened. She had no idea her world was about to change. Not because she chose it, but because her parents already had. Alara sat across from her parents in the formal dining room, still in her lounge clothes, hair wrapped in a scarf, untouched tea cooling in front of her. She had been dragged downstairs without context, and the expressions on her parents' faces were odd. Not nervous, not angry, but fixed, like salespeople rehearsing a pitch. Monica folded her hands neatly on the table. "Alara, baby, you know how much we love you." Alara's eyes narrowed. "Nobody starts a sentence like that unless they're about to ruin your whole day." David chuckled a little too loudly. Monica didn't. Her mother leaned in slightly. "We've had an opportunity come up. A way for this family to finally stabilize and recover." Alara gave a slow, measured blink. "What does that have to do with me?" "You know the Hales, don't you?" David asked, trying to sound casual. "Lucien Hale. Tech billionaire. Built Hale systems from scratch. I've read the Forbes articles, sure." Monica's smile tightened. "Well, we've been having some light conversations with them. They're looking for someone to partner with their son, Adrian." Alara tilted her head. "Partner? A wife?" Monica said, voice even, tone clinical. Alara stared at her mother. David cleared his throat. "It's not what it sounds like." "Really?" Because it sounds like you're trying to marry me off like I'm some kind of desperate debutante on a clearance rack. Elara, I'm sorry, she said, raising a hand. But do y'all hear yourselves? This isn't Bridgerton. You want me to marry a man I don't know. For what, money? Business leverage? What even is this? Monica's voice dropped, calm but forceful. It's survival. Elara stood slowly. No. Elara, David said, standing too. We wouldn't be asking if we had other options. But the creditors are circling. The IRS is watching. If we go under, we take you with us. Your accounts, your name, your credit, everything gets stained. You won't be able to rent a studio apartment, let alone publish a book. Elara's stomach twisted. She could feel the floor shifting beneath her, the edges of the room pressing inward. Her voice was quieter now. So that's it? You want me to marry some stranger so you can clean up your mess? He's not a stranger, Monica said smoothly. He's young, educated, attractive, and the deal is only for 1 year. Elara scoffed. A 1-year marriage? What is this, a tax write-off? It's a contract, David admitted. No strings after. Just appearances. Formal events. A few interviews. You do your part, and the debt disappears. All of it. And if I don't? The room fell quiet. Monica's voice was cool. Then we lose everything. And when we do, so will you. Elara looked between them, her heart pounding in her ears. For a moment, her younger self surfaced. The girl who once believed her parents had it all figured out. The girl who thought she'd grow up and live a soft, successful life with no drama and no desperation. That girl felt very, very far away. She took a breath and walked out of the room. The Hale estate felt like another planet. Elara stood in the foyer of the massive Buckhead mansion, flanked by 2 silent assistants in sleek black suits. The walls were lined with contemporary African art, vibrant, angular, bold. Everything inside radiated power and taste. No gold chandeliers. No overcompensation. Just quiet wealth and unapologetic control. She smoothed the front of her cream blouse with clammy fingers and reminded herself to breathe. Then he entered. Adrian Hale was taller than she expected. Dark brown skin, sharp cheekbones, and a quiet elegance that didn't scream billionaire's son, but hummed it low and constant. He wore a navy turtleneck under a charcoal blazer, and his eyes flicked over her with cool assessment. Not rude, not lecherous, just clinical. Miss Carter, he said with a small nod. Thank you for coming. Didn't exactly have a choice, she replied before she could stop herself. His brow ticked slightly. Noted. They walked together through a hallway that opened into a glass-walled lounge, where Lucien Hale waited. Posture like steel, a tablet in hand, not even pretending this was anything more than a business transaction. Sit, he said without looking up. They did. Lucien spoke without ceremony. You two will enter into a 12-month marriage contract. Public appearances will be required. A curated press rollout will begin 2 weeks from signing. You will attend at least 1 major social event per month, as a couple. In exchange, the Carter family's debts will be erased, their accounts stabilized, and their home placed in a protected trust under your name, Elara. That protection dissolves if you breach the terms. Elara stared at him. What happens after 12 months? You divorce. Quietly. We'll handle the PR. You walk away clean. She looked at Adrian. He hadn't said a word. So this doesn't bother you? She asked him. Marrying someone you don't know? Living a lie for a year? Adrian finally looked at her directly. His voice was calm, almost bored. My entire life has been arranged by other people. 1 more year of pretending isn't going to break me. And what if it breaks me? She asked. He paused, something flickering behind his eyes. Then I guess we make it through 1 day at a time. The contract sat between them now, printed on thick, cream-colored paper with gold trim like a damn wedding invitation. Elara picked it up. Page after page of clauses, obligations, escape hatches, and consequences. Her hands were shaking. This was a deal with the devil. And the devil had very good lawyers. She thought about her parents' faces. About losing everything. About her own name, ruined and attached forever to their downfall. And then she thought about survival. With a deep breath, Elara reached for the pen and signed her name. The first month passed like a chess match. Elara and Adrian moved like dignified strangers through the halls of the Hale estate, never touching, never lingering, never looking too long. Their interactions were transactional: wardrobe fittings, event schedules, PR coaching. They shared meals in silence, cars in silence, entire afternoons in silence. Polished. Civil, cold. Adrian's wing of the house was its own world, sleek, modern, quiet. Alara's suite was across the hall, designed like a luxury hotel room. The walk-in closet had more designer labels than her entire wardrobe back home. Monica had cried when she saw it. Alara hadn't said a word. One Tuesday morning, she found Adrian in the library, barefoot, sketching quietly in a leather-bound book. Jazz played low from a corner speaker. Miles Davis, if she wasn't mistaken. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows, casting him in amber and shadow. "You draw?" she asked before thinking. He didn't look up. "I paint. This is just prep. You don't strike me as the tortured artist type." "I'm not. I just enjoy doing things no one expects of me." She sat in the armchair opposite him, studying his lines, precise, deliberate, elegant. He was drawing hands. Strong, detailed, expressive hands. "You know," she said after a while, "for someone raised to be a robot, you've got some soul in there." He smirked slightly. "Don't tell my father. He'll have it removed." They shared a laugh, a real one. For the first time since the contract was signed, the space between them didn't feel like a wall. It felt like air. Tense, maybe, but breathable. Later that week, they attended their first charity gala together. Alara wore a crimson off-shoulder gown that hugged her body like molten glass. Adrian wore black on black, no tie, no smile. The cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters swarmed. They held hands for the photos, posed like royalty, and danced once for show. Adrian's hand at her back was warm. Firm. Not possessive, but steady. "You're good at this," she whispered, smiling at a photographer. "I've been trained to be charming. You could have fooled me." He looked at her then, really looked, and for a second, she saw the man beneath the sculpted mask. Not the air. Not the product. Just Adrian. "You're not what I expected," he said quietly. "Neither are you." They returned home late, silent in the elevator as the high from the event wore off. When they reached her floor, she hesitated before stepping out. "Good night," she said. He nodded. "Good night, Alara." Something in the way he said her name made her stomach flip. The next morning, he left a fresh bouquet of sunflowers outside her door. No note. Just flowers. She stared at them for a long time before taking them inside. The ice was melting, and neither of them knew what to do about it. From the outside, Alara and Adrian Hale were perfect. Magazine covers called them the power pair of Atlanta. Social media ate up every gala photo, every coordinated outfit, every sideways glance that hinted at affection. PR teams curated their image like it was high art. Two successful, beautiful young black elites who made ambition look romantic. But behind the designer smiles and press releases, the truth was messier. Much messier. Adrian had grown used to silence, but Alara cracked that open. Slowly. Carefully. Over dinners, over shared rides, over unexpected late-night chess matches in the study when neither could sleep. They began to talk more, about art, music, growing up under pressure. About what it meant to be defined by family legacies they never asked for. There were moments, brief and electric, when it almost felt real. But real wasn't part of the contract. And Alara never forgot that. Especially not when her parents started calling again. "You've got him wrapped around your finger," Monica said over the phone, her voice like syrup over steel. "Now's the time to secure things." Alara sat on the edge of her bed, gripping the phone so tight her knuckles turned white. "What are you talking about?" "You know what I'm talking about. A baby changes everything. They'll never let you go after that." Alara laughed, but it came out cold. "You're insane." "I'm practical," Monica said. "You think this life is going to last after the contract ends? You think people like us get second chances at money like this?" Alara hung up. She stared at her reflection in the mirror for a long time. She didn't recognize the woman looking back. This wasn't the girl who dreamed of writing novels in a cozy apartment above a coffee shop. This wasn't freedom. It was velvet captivity. That night, Adrian found her in the rooftop garden, staring up at the stars. "You okay?" he asked gently. She turned to him, face unreadable. "Do you ever wish you weren't born into all this?" He didn't answer right away. I used to, he said eventually. But then I realized, even if I'd been born somewhere else, someone like my father would have still found a way to control me. Alara smiled faintly, without humor. We should start a support group. He chuckled. We could charge admission. She looked at him then, the light catching in her eyes. Do you ever think about what happens when the contract ends? Adrian hesitated. I try not to. Why not? Because it feels like if I think about it too hard, I might not want it to end. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was dangerous. Because it was honest. He stepped closer, just slightly. Close enough that she could smell the hint of vetiver in his cologne. Close enough that she could see the tension in his jaw. I'm not going to hurt you, Alara, he said quietly. I know this started out wrong, but you're not a bargaining chip to me. Her heart thudded. I want to believe you, she said. Then do. And before she could think, before either of them could ruin it with logic or fear, he reached out, gently brushing her fingers with his. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just a touch. The first real thing between them. It all came crashing down on a Wednesday. Alara had just returned from a solo charity appearance, her first without Adrian, when she found Lucien Hale waiting for her in the sunken lounge, flanked by 2 corporate lawyers in charcoal suits. He stood like a man used to bending empires with a single phone call. Alara, he said smoothly, have a seat. She didn't. What's this? Lucien's eyes, dark and sharp as cut glass, narrowed just slightly. You've done a fine job these past few months. The media loves you. You've stabilized Adrian's image. But I've recently come across some concerning information. Her throat went dry. What kind of information? He took a file from the table and slid it toward her. She didn't touch it. Email transcripts, he said. Between your parents and my office. Prior to the arrangement. Before we ever spoke to you. Alara's stomach dropped. They approached me first, Lucien continued. Not the other way around. They sold you like a problem they were trying to unload. Charming, presentable, highly educated, easily adaptable to public expectation. That was your mother's phrasing. Alara said nothing. She couldn't. Her body had gone cold. Lucien stepped closer. Do you know what that makes this marriage, Alara? A transaction. One I allowed out of strategy, not sentiment. She forced herself to speak. And now what? You dissolve it. I should. But Adrian seems attached. Foolishly so. You've become a distraction. The words stung more than she expected. Lucien's tone turned sharp. You'll convince him to let this go. Quietly. No drama. No scandal. When the contract ends, you disappear. She stared at him. And if I don't? He smiled. Then your parents' debt reactivates. With interest. This time we collect in full. He left without waiting for her response. Adrian found her in the guest wing later that night, sitting on the floor of the hallway outside her room, knees tucked to her chest. What happened? He asked, crouching down. She didn't look at him. Your father threatened me. Said I have to end this. Said I was a mistake. Adrian's jaw tightened. He what? She lifted her head, eyes glassy but unbroken. He showed me emails. From my parents. Before I even knew about the marriage. They pitched me like I was a sales package, Adrian. I wasn't even part of the plan. I was the product. His expression cracked. Alara. I'm done. Her voice broke on the edges. I'm done being the fix for other people's disasters. I'm done performing. And I'm done pretending this, whatever this is, means nothing. Adrian sat beside her, silent for a long moment. Then he said, I'll talk to him. You can't. I can. His voice was different now, low, steady, angry. You think I haven't spent my whole life letting him dictate every step I take? He doesn't get to decide what I care about anymore. Alara looked at him then. And what do you care about? He met her eyes. You. She didn't speak. Didn't move. The moment just hung there, pulsing with everything unsaid. Then Adrian stood, held out his hand, and pulled her to her feet. You're not walking away alone, he said. Then let's walk all the way out. The next morning, Adrian Hale stood in his father's office and declared his independence. Not just from Lucien, but from the empire he'd been groomed to inherit. He renounced his spot on the board, refused his trust fund, walked out of the Hale legacy without flinching. All for a woman who had been sold like a debt payment, and who refused to let that define her. The headlines hit like a grenade. Billionaire heir's marriage revealed as business arrangement. Sources say wife was part of debt settlement deal. The gossip blogs picked it up first, then mainstream outlets caught on. A leak from a confidential insider spilled every detail. The contract, the Carter's debt, even Monica's early emails to Lucien Hale's office. The internet was merciless. Photos of Alara were everywhere. Headlines screamed betrayal, scandal, manipulation. But none of them knew the truth. Alara sat in the back of a car outside the Hale Foundation building, her phone buzzing nonstop in her lap. Adrian sat beside her, jaw tense, scrolling through a steady flood of articles. "You don't have to go in there," he said. "I can do the press alone." She shook her head. "If I hide, they win. I want to speak for myself." He looked at her, really looked, and nodded. "Then I'm right beside you." Inside, a swarm of reporters pressed close, cameras flashing like fireworks. Alara stepped to the podium, took a breath, and looked straight into the storm. "I'm Alara Carter Hale," she began, voice clear and calm. "Yes, this marriage began as an arrangement. And yes, I was put in an impossible position by my parents' mistakes. But I made a choice to protect myself and to survive. And I stand by it." Whispers. Flashes. Clicks. She continued. "What the headlines don't tell you is what came after. They don't tell you about late-night conversations, quiet mornings, or the way something real started to grow between two people who never asked for any of this." She glanced at Adrian, who gave the slightest nod. "This isn't a scandal. It's a beginning." The public response was surprising. Some attacked. Some mocked. But many others, especially young women, flooded Alara's inbox with support. Her honesty struck a nerve. Within days, she was invited to speak on podcasts, panels, even TV interviews, not as a socialite, but as a woman who refused to be ashamed of her survival. She turned most of it down. Instead, she started writing again. Essays. Personal stories. A blog that exploded in popularity overnight. Her voice, witty, raw, elegant, spread fast. She didn't just step out of the shadow of the scandal. She turned it into her stage. Meanwhile, Adrian stayed out of the spotlight. He quietly launched a small creative studio downtown, working with underrepresented artists. He cut all corporate ties with Hale Systems, even declining the inheritance Lucien tried to hold over him like a leash. Lucien Hale went silent. The king had lost his heir, and no one cried for him. One evening, weeks after the scandal had settled into a new kind of quiet, Alara stood on the balcony of their townhouse, a mug of tea in hand, watching the Atlanta skyline hum in the distance. Adrian came up behind her, slipped his arms around her waist, and rested his chin on her shoulder. "People still whisper when we walk into a room," he said. "Let them. You ever regret it?" he asked softly. "Signing that contract." She turned to face him, fingers brushing the side of his face. "No," she said, "because I didn't just find my freedom in all this. I found you." He smiled, not the perfect PR smile, but the real one. The one only she ever saw. And when he kissed her, there was no performance. No cameras. No contract. Just them. 1 year later, the contract was over. No ceremony. No countdown. Just a quiet date circled on a calendar that came and went. No lawyers showed up. No clauses were enforced. And neither of them packed a bag. Alara stood in the living room of their cozy midtown home. Not the Hale mansion, but a warm, sunlight-washed townhouse they'd chosen together. Her published essay collection, still standing, rested on the coffee table, next to a half-finished jigsaw puzzle and Adrian's sketchbook. There was no luxury staff, no personal chefs, no silent assistants. Just 2 toothbrushes in one bathroom. A shared Spotify playlist. 2 mugs that always somehow ended up in the sink. She wasn't Mrs. Hale because of a contract anymore. She was Alara, by her own name, on her own terms. Adrian entered the room holding a simple ring box. No crowd, no cameras, no script. "Alara." She turned from the window, eyes catching his. "We never got to do this part properly," he said, stepping closer. "No lawyers, no headlines, just me and you." He opened the box. Inside was a slender gold band with a small emerald set in the center. No diamonds. No flash. Just intention. "I want this time to be real," he he said. No deal. No pressure. If you say no, nothing changes. We still wake up tomorrow in the same bed, with the same bad coffee and the same weird cat you made me adopt. She laughed softly, covering her mouth. He continued, voice steady. But if you say yes, then we write the rest of this story together. Page by page. The way we want it. Alara stared at him for a long moment. Her heart didn't race like the movies. There was no swelling music. Just a quiet, certain warmth blooming in her chest. This wasn't fantasy. It was better. It was real. She stepped forward and whispered, yes. That night, they sat on the floor eating takeout from the same Thai place they'd gone to on their third fake date. No champagne. Just pad CEW and laughter. The TV played a documentary in the background. The cat knocked over a plant. And Alara leaned into Adrian's side, feeling, for the first time in a long time, safe. Not bought. Not trapped. Loved. Not the fairy tale kind. But the kind that's built layer by layer. The kind that starts in the fire and grows roots in the ash.